G'day you mob, and welcome to this episode of The Goss, where I sit down with my old man, Ian Smisson, and we chat about news and current affairs and other things related to Australia and, well, more broadly speaking, the world. Today's episode is a bit of a ripper. We talk about our favourite dead actors. We talk about piss in Aussie English slang and how it is such a versatile word that can mean anything from urine to alcohol to joking with someone. We talk about drinking stories and how I actually never drank before the age of about 23, 24. We talk about MND, motor neuron disease in Australia, and Neil Danaher and his multi-million-dollar fundraising efforts. We talk about Qantas and millionaire CEOs like Alan Joyce during COVID. Then we talk about baldness and how being bald may actually mean you're more likely to die of COVID. There's an interesting relationship there. And then lastly, we touch on the rise of conspiracy theorists these days. Anyway, without any further ado, guys, let's get into this episode. Oh, and before we do it, don't forget, if you want the full episode, you want the transcript, you want the downloads for this episode, and you want to see the full video, make sure to sign up for the premium podcast membership at aussieenglish.com.au/podcast. Anyway, enough rabbiting on. Let's get into the content, smack the bird, and let's begin. Why so serious? Man, I miss Heath Ledger. I miss Smith Heath Ledger.
We'll have to do an episode on
Why so serious?
the people not heroes so much, but the people you miss or so on that have come and gone.
Well, yeah, Heath Ledger was just such a badass, right?
Yeah.
Like he seemed to have come out of nowhere. I don't know if he was on Home and Away, like Chris Hemsworth.
No,
I think he might have appeared on one of those weird Neighbours or Home and Away or something.
But only I think he was a guest. He wasn't a permanent member of the crew. But
Yeah. But then he ended up doing, what was it, 10 Things I Hate About You or whatever it is.
Yeah,
and
that
then
was his real sort of
launch
into Hollywood.
And then what happened? I guess he got into a whole bunch of these. He got Ned Kelly, was a pretty big
so
one,
that's
right?
Australian. Yeah.
And then Batman, which one was The Dark Knight? The Dark Knight, I think it was, right? Where he was just like, oh my God. And then he died, overdosing, and you're just like, fuck, Heath. Jesus. Imagine where you could be. You imagine what he would have done now. Can you think of any other movies that have come out since where you're just like, I guess you just have absolutely no idea because that was where he was showing his chops in that film of like, I can do anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Like almost like Johnny Depp before Johnny Depp just went off the
deep end.
Off the deep end.
Well, he's a bit like, Tom Hanks, I think, is the best actor in the world at the moment.
You reckon? Not Tom Cruise?
Sorry, I'll just look for the poke in the back for that.
Where's my bucket?
Yeah.
Tom Cruise is funny because he is a good actor, but he just does his one thing. So it seems like he creates films that just fit his, tough man.
Oh, and look, the Reacher one is the one that just drives me nuts. Yeah. Reacher is he's the right age. Reacher is 50 plus, ex-Navy SEAL, 6'5" and built like a brick outhouse.
Yeah, except
Tom Cruise is about 5'7" and skinny. I mean, he does some weights to build himself up a bit, but he's hardly a monster ex-Navy SEAL.
Well, they just get a lot of other small people on set, right? And then it's like, well, he looks big.
Yeah.
Some of the movies he ends up being in tend to be pretty cool. I like a lot of the sci-fi ones. Was it Oblivion where he ends up on a planet and it turns out he's cloned?
I don't watch them. I don't watch his movies. I can't stand him.
I don't know. I have to just detach from the fact that he's a Scientologist. Yeah, far out. How's your week been anyway, Dad? What's the goss?
Yeah, good. Just basically, the end of recovery from the surgery. So, I'm now out and about and walking and photographing and stuff again, which is good rather than just sitting around the house. The family history has suffered a little bit for the last couple of weeks because I've been out and about, but getting back into that today. I was doing some more research on that today.
Keep going. I'm just going to turn my phone on to airplane mode
Yes.
as I just got a call from some random New South Wales number.
Right.
Spam.
Yeah. I'll just
go for it.
Mine off.
Yeah, so you're feeling better though?
Yeah, mostly. I mean, I actually don't feel much different from before the surgery, but that was to be expected. Apparently, it takes a couple of months to see a result. or not.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where you just got to go, well, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, we try again. So.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed, right? I don't know how you go in.
That's all right. I don't believe in superstition. It's bad luck.
Knock on wood. Yeah. I don't know how you do it, though. Like, it freaks me out, the idea of just, being in hospital, intravenous strips and drugs and everything like that and getting knocked out. But I guess you just suck it up, right?
Well, yeah.
It
is. Well, exactly. The choice is don't do it. But.
Yeah. I think that was a gateway drug for me, to be honest. I think it was like, well, maybe not directly straight afterwards, but I remember growing up, I never did any drugs or drank, right? I mean, you'd probably remember at least as much as you knew.
Well, you were pretty honest about it, mostly. So.
Well, I was always too worried about what would happen if I got drunk, because I guess, and we could talk a little bit about drinking culture in Australia, but I always felt like my friends probably got on the piss. They started drinking at the ages of probably 15,
You've done
16.
an on the piss episode, I take it.
I think so. I will have mentioned that.
Yeah.
And that piss is used for alcohol.
And on the piss is on the drinking. But it tends to be a session rather than just have a drink.
Yeah.
Going to get on the piss means all-nighter.
Piss is a pretty good word in English in terms of
it's got
dexterity.
It's got multiple meanings.
You taking the piss?
Yeah. Piss off. I'm taking the piss while I'm doing the piss.
But
and on the piss.
I remember my friends we'd catch up on weekends, and it was funny because we're all private school boys in terms of going to Geelong College. And, you would think everyone would be pretty well behaved, but I guess, boys will be boys. And, well, young kids will be
people
kids.
People are people, yeah. Exactly.
And so I remember you'd go to these parties with them, and we weren't ever too crazy, but I remember them getting smashed from a young age and just being like, I'm pretty crazy as it is. I don't know if, because you would see the ones who were normally really quiet turn into animals and just the inhibition just disappeared.
Yeah. Yes.
And you were just like, my God.
Do I need this? Yeah, because, I used to drink from a relatively young age, and I'm not condoning this. Yeah, I was probably 15 or 16.
Well, the rules were different.
Back
then.
The rules were actually tighter. No, they were exactly the same. But I'd go to the pub at 15 or 16, you'd buy a few beers and sit around and have a drink. But
they didn't check your ID? Or they just didn't care?
No, didn't
or
care.
Both?
Well, both. I looked older than I was, so that helped. And there wasn't the really strict ID checking and stuff that they do now. I've had a couple of stories about that. Once went to a pub with a teacher from school who took 2 or 3 of us to the pub one on Friday night. And he was pissed off because, another version of the word piss, he was pissed off because he was the only one who got ID'd. There were 4 of us there. He was 25 and the rest of us were about 16. Yeah.
Jesus.
But, and the other one I remember years later was, going to the local hotel, and a bouncer stopped me at the door and told me that I couldn't come into the lounge bar because I was wearing tennis shoes. And I just looked at him and went, it's like I'm wearing bare feet or thongs. What are you talking about? And he said, no, it's not the dress code, mate. And I said, well, what about the age code? Because I'll guarantee you I can walk through that bar and point out 20 people who are under 18. And he just went, just piss off, mate.
Jesus.
So I went home and changed my shoes. So that only took 10 minutes because we're 5 minutes walk from the pub. But so age was not quite as belligerently
enforced.
done and enforced, with bouncers checking IDs for anybody who looked under 25, which is what they do these days.
Well, I guess the restrictions now, or at least the fines, the potential fines of 10 to 20 grand or something if they find someone that's underage on your premises.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I used to drink, but it was, I didn't drink to get drunk. I drank because I liked it. And that was I think, there were people who did, but I think that binge drinking, the sort of underage binge drinking stuff has really come in the last 20 years.
I don't even have my finger on the pulse in terms of what it's like today.
No, I wouldn't know. I suspect it's the same as when you were.
Why do you think that suddenly came up?
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
In Australia?
Yeah.
I guess it's something, maybe we got it from America because they have their frat parties where everyone gets messed up because I think what's their laws mostly you can't drink until you're 21.
21
you can get a gun,
states,
you can have sex, you can drive, you can do pretty much anything.
Yeah, get enlisted in the military.
You can die for your country, you can't have a beer.
Yeah, exactly.
But we always, I remember movies like American Pie any of those young teenage American movies, they would have that sort of culture, especially those plastic cups, right? The red cups with the white interior, beer pongs played with them and everything like that. They would always be that stereotype of
so I suppose there is a bit of that sort of Hollywood syndrome of it just becomes part of your expected life when you see it a lot on TV, but don't know.
But yeah, I remember, I didn't drink until I was probably 23, and in fact I think it was James's, one of my best friend's birthdays where I would have drunk for the first time, or at least near there, because I remember it would have been his birthday.
I actually remember picking you up from his party.
Yeah, I was probably like, oh my God. But I remember that
because you didn't drive, I think, for whatever reason.
Yeah, what had happened was that I'd had my wisdom teeth out, and I remember they sedated me but didn't give me a general anesthetic. So the anesthetic they gave me was like being drunk. And I remember waking up from that and just being like out of it but feeling great. And the guy pretty much saying that this is, it's just going to feel like you've had a few beers or something. And then I was like, well, if this is all it's like, what have I been doing?
What have I been missing out on?
Yeah, once I'd had that sedation, I was like, well, I'm not crazy at all. I'm just tired and lax and just woo. And I remember, I went to James's party and what happened? I just tried a few drinks and then was like, yeah, okay, this is pretty good. And then I remember we had New Year's at his place as well. And I went out and got 4 double blacks, the vodka drinks that you could get, not really having an understanding of how strong they were, and drinking all 4 of them. In fact, I may have given one of them away and drank 3 of them in about half an hour and was out of it for the next 3 hours. Yeah, I remember I was lying in his dad's trailer in the garage that he had, and his trailer was full of soil, and I was in shorts and a white t-shirt, and was just, there's a photo of me on Facebook somewhere, which I'm not going to share with you guys, of me just out of it, just like, oh my God, will this end? Like, come on, kidneys and liver, do your thing.
Yeah.
Please, well, and that's this.
that's the problem with those slow acting drugs, and because they also tend to be slow to get out of your system, and also drugs that reduce your inhibition means you're more likely to keep doing it. So, smoking dope and drinking alcohol, you can't overdose on marijuana, you just pass out. But you can overdose on alcohol. You can get alcohol poisoning. Yeah. And most of the people who suffer from that are not alcoholics. They're just binge drinkers who,
somebody's just got
when you've had
the bottle, right?
4 or 5 or 6 drinks in half an hour, and you feel great. And you go, whoa, yeah. And so you just keep drinking because you've lost your inhibitions. And then all of a sudden it kicks in and you pass out and your liver stops working.
Yeah, I can't imagine. But I remember that being okay, this is the limit. I'm not going to come here again.
Yes.
So I think I've probably been at that stage of not blackout drunk, but definitely this is too much. And just like, I can't stand up. Like my world is spinning.
Yeah.
And I remember I vomited up all of my dinner, which was kangaroo. And my friend thankfully got a goon box, cleaned it up and hid it the moment I'd done it. So I looked down and it was gone. And I was just like, whoa.
Goon box. That's another one for, with an asterisk next to it for you to look up. Yeah.
That is a cask wine box where cask wine is sold in a cask, like a cardboard box with it's an inflatable silver foil bladder that, yes, it's very, very, very
a great
cheap
Australian
wine.
Invention.
Look up Wheel of, is it Goon of Fortune? Where they put the goon bags on the Hills hoist and you spin it around and whoever it gets near has to have a mouthful. Yeah. But, I remember that being that sort of like, okay, so feels good to have 1 or 2. Having too much is like, that's the limit, and then after that it was like
a sweet spot in there somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. So that was my, and it was funny because, it would have been 23, 24 when I first did it and got to that point and was like, okay, so I came very slow. Kel the other day was like, I'm so proud of you. I'm like, there's nothing to be proud of. I was afraid of what I could have been, like I was afraid there was some dragon inside and I'd have a drink and just be like, but that never happened and I just want to go to sleep most of the time. I just don't get the anger thing too. You meet people who are either come completely out of their shell and turn into another human being that you never see. And so they have to drink to be that fun, crazy, their inhibition is gone and they can finally relax and be there who you would imagine is behind the eyes the whole time when they're not acting normally.
Yes.
And then you have the violent people who drinking just want to get into fights. And I never understood that.
I don't know. Well, I suppose
I never felt that.
Yeah, some people just, their inhibitions release different things. You can probably tell me better, but I just get louder.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the number of times I've had 4 or 5 drinks, people go, Ian, just quieten down. Quieten down.
I think everyone does that,
And
right?
then you go, I'm not shouting!
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you want to get your point across and everything, but...
And I'm sure it's because you're relaxed and you can't hear yourself.
Yes. Well, because everyone else is shouting.
Yeah, there's no feedback. Yeah, well, and it tends to be in parties and the sort of public, large, loud public situations. But
yeah. By the way, we're not drinking alcohol.
No, we're not. Kombucha.
Yeah, these
kombucha. Get them in you.
These are really good. So that you can find these at Coles and Woolworths. I always want to say Safeway, but Woolworths. It is Woolworths now.
Woolworths now.
Used to be Safeway in
Safeway
Victoria.
owned by Woolworths.
But these cola kombuchas are really good. And they finally sell them in 4 packs.
Le Bros or Le Bros.
They've got a whole bunch of flavours. There are
They
some
do.
great ones, and they're so low sugar, so it's like, yes!
Yeah, low sugar, low caffeine.
It doesn't taste like it.
It's the flavoured fizzy drink you have when you don't want sugar and caffeine. So.
So, story-wise, what have you got, Dad?
Well,
Do you wanna go
5MND.
first?
We mentioned it last time.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether that one's hit the press or not
Has
yet.
not yet. Well, by the time this one does,
But
it will
this
have.
one, it will have. Yeah, all right. Yeah, rewind. Yeah, 5MND, which I mentioned last time. And I'm not going to put the beanie on because it won't fit over or under the headphones. But
They're everywhere at the moment. Kel's
They
always
are.
like, another one of those
they
blue
are.
fucking
Yeah,
beanies.
exactly. Motor neuron disease, which in America is often called Lou Gehrig's disease. It's a neural deterioration disease. It's chronic, and once you've got it, you're effectively going to die from it.
Is this what
it's
Stephen
incurable.
Hawking had, or he had something else?
No, he had something else.
But it's a similar sort of thing.
Similar sort of thing, but it tends to be middle-age, young middle-age onset, people in their 20s, 30s, 40s.
That's
not
the
an old age
aspect
thing.
of it that's scary, where it comes on
And
just
it's
randomly, right?
often
And you've got
people
4 to 10 years.
It's often people who are fitter, and I think it's disproportionate amongst people who are good sports people. And
Really?
you sit there and go, nobody knows why. But, so the 5MND thing comes from a famous Australian footballer, Neil Danaher, who obviously has MND and has had it for about the last 8 or 9 years. And he has completely outlived the prognosis. It's usually 3 to 5 years is the extended life expectancy after you get diagnosed. He's gone way past that. And about 6 years ago, he started a charity, the Fight MND charity. Just after that, the freeze MND thing came out, where people were doing the ice bucket challenge that went around. That was six or so years ago.
Global, yeah.
Yeah, and he got diagnosed right about that time, and he started this charity, and he's now made more than $50 million in that charity this year, $11.9 million. Right. When and the biggest event that he has is at the Queen's birthday holiday. There's one football game on that. It's Melbourne versus Collingwood. 2 Melbourne teams playing each other at the Melbourne Cricket Ground, get a big crowd, and they have this sort of special event where a whole lot of celebrities slide down a slide into a big swimming pool full of ice, and they're raising money for that, and they started selling these beanies, and so that game didn't happen this year, and obviously there were no public events because a lot of other public events and things, but this is the biggest year for raising it. Last year they sold out of these. And I can't remember who manufactures them. I probably could look it up, but haven't got time. But the manufacturer produces them for free as a donation, and they're sold for $20 each.
Crazy.
I bought 2 but paid $50 each just to add as a donation. But they sold out of them this year, again, having made more than twice as many as last year. So
sky's the limit.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, there's the government are actually funding that this as well. So government are putting money into this charity.
Is this the first year where they've popped up in all the large supermarket chains?
Yeah, because traditionally they were just sold at football games or online. Yeah, and Coles and Bunnings. So Coles Supermarket and Bunnings, the big hardware warehouse shop, were selling them.
I saw them in Coles.
And Coles did a match, a dollar for dollar match, I think, that whatever they sold, they would match. And Bunnings because Bunnings has that, and again, we've probably spoken about the sausage sizzle at Bunnings and other hardware stores on Saturday mornings, where often a lot of the local charities and sporting clubs and things will just set up their little tent and sell a sausage and bread for a couple of dollars and as raising money, but the whole time these were for sale, Bunnings were doing that, and they were doing dollar for dollar match on that. So there was it's a really good corporate interest in it as well. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was looking up here, typing away, that there is a link between blue-green algae blooms and neurotoxicity and potentially causing human neurological diseases like MND. And it's so the key points in this article: research suggests toxin in blue-green algae blooms may increase neurological diseases. Incidence of MND in Griffith is 7 times higher than the national average. CEO of MND New South Wales is not convinced of link, though.
Yeah.
But it is interesting. I remember hearing about it. I don't know if it was on the Joe Rogan podcast or something else, where there was, might have been reading a book or something, I can't remember, but there was a study or something apparently in France where there was a certain lake, and on 2 different sides of the lake, I think there were completely different prevalences of MND. And I think they traced it to, the only thing they could work out that was different was that the cyanobacteria, the blue-green algae, was present on one side in the shellfish that would be eaten by people and not on the other. And so they were just like, well, I mean, that's correlation, but...
Yeah, but correlation is a good indicator of further research required.
So it is pretty crazy if that, further research is done and they work out there's some sort of a correlation to blue-green algae being in the water that people consume or in the food they consume, and that's leading to higher prevalence of MND. Yeah. Craziness.
It is.
Yeah. So, what were the other stories that you had? There's a crazy one about mullets, right?
Yeah. Well, that one. I've decided to introduce a new segment. We introduced the puppies and kittens stories a while ago. I've got a new segment, and that's Idiot of the Week, and Idiot Story of the Week, and we can choose between them. I've got those. I'll hold off on those. But the big story that's just come out today is that Qantas, the Australian national airline,
I got that one on here too,
has just decided that they're going to lose 6,000 jobs, which is about a quarter of their workforce.
Yeah.
And they still have 15,000 people who are in stand down that are on JobKeeper allowance.
And that's because of the international travel bans that are currently in place.
And
they would normally work on those.
They are suggesting that they probably won't be back to their previous international things for 3 years.
Yeah, well, I've got some of the stats here. I think they were saying Qantas's own projections are that domestic demand in 2020 and 2021 will be only about 70%, and it'll only get to 100% by 2021-22, and that they're seeking to raise $1.9 billion from investors through a share sale.
Yeah.
And they're burning through currently $40 million a week in salaries, I think, and other expenses.
Yeah, exactly. So the Transport Workers Union have obviously arced up against 6,000 of their members being fired, and rightly so. But it's that rock and a hard place thing of,
okay, we keep them on board and
we keep them on board and we'll keep you employed for the next 6 months, and then the company just dissolves.
Yeah.
Or they do everything they can to stay alive and keep employing people. I know the union, and I'm an ex-unionist, so I can't criticise them too much. But I know the union has jumped on you should be asking the government for to continue job seeker and job keeper and all this sort of stuff, or some form of bailout. But my understanding is that the Qantas hierarchy have already been doing that. And the government has come out and basically publicly anyway, and what they're doing behind closed doors, I don't know, but publicly they've said that JobKeeper, which is the payment that the government is paying to workers who are being stood down, so that they're maintaining part of salaries.
$1,500 a fortnight or something, or a week?
But that's going to finish in September.
Yeah.
And there is, the government have come out and said they're not going to extend that. So I'm not sure what Qantas is expected to do beyond that. It's that, the no good news situation where, either they, sack a whole lot of people or they go under.
Well, they were saying too, it's a warning shot to Virgin's new owners. So I think Virgin got bailed outright and bought by, I'm not sure who it was, but
I don't know.
Other investors, obviously. And Qantas needs to maximise its previously dominant share of the domestic market as that market recovers during its restructuring phase. And there is going to be a fierce contest for the available dollars as the domestic market reopens. So its own planned savage cost reductions and the war chest of $4.6 billion of liquidity created by the capital raising and Qantas's debt facilities are like a shot across the bows to Virgin's prospective new owners, because Virgin's going to be competing for the same
they're in the same market, on the local market.
Domestic stuff. So it's going to be interesting. What do you think is going to happen with flights, especially domestically? Do you think prices are going to plummet in order to try and encourage people to get back on planes?
I don't know how they can afford to run a plane.
G'day, mate. That was the first half of this episode of The Goss. If you would like to continue watching or continue listening to this episode, make sure that you sign up for the premium podcast or academy memberships at aussieenglish.com.au, where you will get full access to these entire episodes of this series and much, much more. You can go check that out using the links below, or just go to aussieenglish.com.au. Once again, thank you so much for joining me, mate, and I will see you next time. Peace.